Hi, in this video we're going to go over the basics of using Flexible Tracker to collect data during an observation. We're looking here at an example of what the Flexible Tracker interface can look like. Now everything might seem really big or oversized, but remember that Flexible Tracker is designed to be used on a mobile device such as a phone or iPad. Everything will look smaller in that situation. Let's start by going over the various types of collections you can make with Tracker. First, we have the counter. And the counter allows you to increment a number just like you might a tally counter, but you can go both up and down. The drop-down collection allows you to select an option from a drop-down, or optionally to select multiple entries from the same drop-down list. The number field allows you to put in any arbitrary number. So you can use, for example, the same kinds of numbers you could use with the counter, but you could also say, instead of just 3, you could say 3.5. The slider allows you to create a slider or a Likert scale from any range you want. So in this case, our range is from 1 to 5, and you can adjust the slider by dragging it along. It saves as a number just like the counter or the number field. Exclusive timers stop any other exclusive timers when they start. So for example, if I click Start here on the first exclusive timer, and then click Start on the second exclusive timer, you'll notice that the first one has stopped. This is useful if you want to time people moving, say, from one area to the next, and they could never be in both places at once. On the other hand, a non-exclusive timer can start even while an exclusive timer is running, and changing the state of an exclusive timer does not affect the state of a non-exclusive timer. You might want to use this if you were, say, tracking the total amount of time that you were making an observation. Finally, we have a text input field where you can type any text you would like. Once you've made the observations that you want to make for this particular session, you can press the Record button to save those observations back to Control Server. If you make observations and then decide that you don't want to keep them, you can click Clear to empty all that out without saving. So now that we've seen the various options with Flexible Tracker, let's see how to set up your own custom interface. We're going to switch to the Analytics tab on the Control Server console, and we're going to create a new template. So let's give it a title. We'll call this Tutorial, and we'll go ahead and click Create Template. Now we can find that in our drop-down list here. We'll select it, and we'll click Edit. Edit will bring us up a list of our collection types, or widgets, and then the available layout that we have created. We can add items to the layout by clicking them from the list on the left. So for example, maybe we want to start with a drop-down that allows us to select what kind of visitor we're observing. On the right here, I can edit the properties for this, and maybe I want to call this visitor type. And we can give that a label to help every evaluator know how to interpret this collection and use it in the same way. So we've given it a bit of a description here. Let's skip down here to the options menu where we can list the options that we want to provide. So maybe we want to have an adult, a child, a family, or a field trip. You'll see I've separated each of these options with a comma. And then in this multiple field, I can say, do we want the user to be able to select multiple objects or just one? In this case, we'll say just one because you're either an adult or a child, or you're visiting as part of a family, or you're visiting as part of a field trip. So now we've set up our visitor type collection. Maybe now we want to have a counter that allows us to say how many people are in this group. So we'll say number of visitors. Count the number of visitors. So now we can select what kind of visitor we have And if that visitor is part of a group, say a family or a field trip, we can use a counter to indicate how many people are in that group. Maybe now we want to add a timer, and we'll call this timer dwell time. And we'll say how long they remain in this gallery. And we'll say that this is not an exclusive timer because how long they're in is independent of anything else we might want to time. We can continue adding different options here and then editing their properties here. Now let's say we wanted to change the order of our collection items. We can use the little arrow buttons here to switch the order in which these pieces happen. So in this case, we've now switched the dwell time to be first because we want to start getting that time as soon as we start. And maybe we decide we want to collect the time or the type of visitor next and then count them last. So we can go ahead and click Save here to save that, and then we can select our tutorial and click Launch to see that appear here in our flexible tracker. So we can start counting the number of visitors. We can say that they're a child, probably just one child, and start that timer for how long they're going to stay in the exhibit. And once they wander back out, we can click Record. You'll notice that I don't have to stop the timer first. It'll stop automatically. So we'll go ahead and report that one, and maybe another visitor walks in, and they're part of a family. And we're going to go ahead and say that there's 3 people here as part of that family. And we're going to press Record here again to record that visitor. And maybe now we get a call on the radio and they're told to start evaluating a different exhibit instead. Well, we can, from our drop-down list here, select the other template and immediately begin recording data on that instead. And as we record those, that'll be recorded in the spreadsheet for example rather than the spreadsheet for tutorial. So now that we've collected all of our data, let's download it in a spreadsheet. So we'll go back to our web console here. We'll click Refresh to make sure we have an up-to-date list of available data. And then let's go down and select our tutorial data here, and we'll click the Download button. That'll start a download here, and that download will be in the form of a comma-separated value, or CSV spreadsheet. So let's go ahead and open that up, and we can see we have our 3 data collection types here, and then each row represents 1 entry, and Flexible Tracker automatically appended an exact timestamp to the moment that you press the Submit button on each of those. And so you can go back and look at the cadence of observations that you've made. Of course, now you can save this CSV file as an Excel spreadsheet or import it into any data analysis tool of your choice.